One, two, three, three, two, one, and we are live. Great morning, everybody. Excuse me. Pardon me. I want to wish you blessings and greetings, broadcasting live from the Dr. Larry White Senior Talk Show. And listen, I've got some amazing men of God on the line tonight, or this morning, I should say. And I'm really pumped up because I'm 1 year away from my 1 year anniversary of my talk show. And what I failed to tell these brothers just a few moments ago is that when I turned 50 last year, I bought this new car, first car I ever had in my life. And y'all heard the story. So I purchased a new car. I go to Martha's Vineyard. I'd never been to the Vineyard. Stacy Ladishaw is on the show. Mark Clark, shout out to Mark Clark, WHUR. He's no longer there, but shout out to Allison Seymour. You're on WUSA 9. I get up at 4 and check you out, sis. But that's how last year started. New show, new book, Martha's Vineyard. So we are here. Now listen, I want to wish you all, I wanted to say, everybody, today was a When Men Lean In show. So I didn't have any guests lined up. I saved it for the brothers. And we're going to get into that. I do go back to my regularly scheduled program next Thursday. And I have some amazing folks from Atlanta that's going to be on the show. And then I take a break and I do my 1 year anniversary show. Now I'm going to ask y'all to do some stuff like this because I'm up to 95 episodes, y'all. 95 episodes. To God be the glory, all right? Even with the dog barking and the kids crying in the pandemic, some of y'all heard that background noise. So this is what I want to talk about today, you all. When men lean in, we all win. Last Saturday was the hard launch. Shout out to Chef Kendall Selby for hosting us. An amazing venue. Food was great. We practiced social distancing. I know some of y'all are getting on me, i.e. Allah, Sylvia Kuntz. Yes, we had on masks and we were 10 feet apart. You might have saw me moonwalking on stage, but Dr. Dyer told me I can do it. I want to give a shout out to these amazing men, and we're going to go introduce our panelists today. Give us some likes, give us some hearts. We're getting ready to go nice. Lace up your shoes because it's going to be a track meet. And remember, it's not about getting there fast by yourself, but getting there with a group of people. Y'all know the thing. So I want to shout out to Dr. William D. Scott. He flew in from Atlanta. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. Wesley Webb, you couldn't be there, but thank you for sponsoring people that could be there. Jero A. Moore, Sr., you are amazing, brother. I love you, brother. Andre James, I know your wife had come in contact with someone who allegedly had COVID and you couldn't make it. I know you were there in spirit, Andre James. McKinley Toombs, you flew in from Chicago, the best man at my wedding. God bless you, brother. Thank you for coming. Shout out to your newlywed bride, Dana. Hope you enjoyed the hotel that I put you in for 2 days. Amen. Stephen LeBroy, my prayers are with you. You had to get on a plane yesterday to go see your dad in New Orleans. My prayers are with you. I know you were going to be on the show today. Thank you for coming. When men lean in, we all win. So we're leaning in on you right now with prayer. Byron T. Dees, those great masks. He couldn't be there, y'all, but he sponsored those masks and we look so great. I've got a couple of programs coming up. Shout out to Byron T. Dees out of Tuskegee. He's on the show this morning, everybody. I think he's from Florida, but he went to Tuskegee. Chef Kendall, God bless you, brother. The food was great. Yeah, I had a couple hot toddies, and I meant to because what I failed to say is when I turned 50 and did the show, my mother had just passed. So what you saw was a maturation of, hey, mama, you couldn't see all this. I know you in heaven blessing me. Your urn is right over here. There was a lot of tears and a lot of love, and that was from my mom. Charlemagne McCarter. Put some respect on my name, Charlemagne say. And I couldn't pronounce his name, Charlemagne, so I used to have to call him Mr. McCarter, but I know his name now. And he said, my mother named me Charlemagne, and that is King. King.
Yeah.
Brian Bailey, my prayers are with you. You couldn't make it. You had 2 deaths in the family. Yeah. I'm with you, brother. We're leaning in on you. Happy Veterans Day to all of the brothers, especially you, Brian, 20 plus years in the military. Brian Keith Bailey, leaning in. Vince Leggett, what can I tell you? Your speech the other night about the dog eating the term paper. Okay, Dr. Dyer knows because I was there. Vince, the Admiral, I appreciate you, brother. Wayne Taylor out of Annapolis, you were running the voting machines. I know you were there in spirit. So shout out to all these amazing authors. So look, hey, brothers, welcome to the show. Let's start off with you, Byron T. Dees. Give us a welcome and tell us who Byron T. Dees is.
Oh, well, thank you this morning. I really appreciate it, Dr. White, and just all of this, the entire effort that you have here with the book and the show. It's just, it's a home run of energy for so many of us. My name is Byron Deese, originally from Sanford, Florida, but live here in Hanover, Maryland, just outside of Baltimore. And a graduate of the great Tuskegee University, was a finance student there at Tuskegee, and now currently financial management investment advisor here in Baltimore, and just very thankful to have an opportunity to be on the show.
Listen, I got to tell you, try to get Dion on here. You've been an amazing man of God. We attended the same church for a long time, and we were in some discipleship classes. And you're all around brother, man. You a man of faith. Household. When we talk about the subtitle of this book, you hit all three boxes: revitalization, education, representation. You help revitalize your community, man. You do a lot of great things. Thank you, Charlemagne, for sharing out the broadcast. You educate your family educates you, and you're all about education, because we have to have education to really make real change. You got to know what's going on, and you'll hear from Dr. Dyer shortly. And then that representation, that's probably the most important one for me: being present in the household, being present in corporate America, being present in the community. So representation, brothers, we have to represent and we have to be present. So thank you, Byron, for that small introduction, and we'll come back to you. I want to call him the man of the hour every day, every time I see him. I love networking, everybody. I got another book over here that talks about power networking. So here's how this works. I'm good friends with Wesley Webb, who's the president of 100 Black Men, and he sits on the national board. So he says, Larry, I would like for you to meet Dr. Paul W. Dyer, and he's got an amazing initiative with Black men. And I got on this call, and it was brothers from DC, North Dakota, Idaho, way up in there, places. I'm from Indiana, and I'm like, man, who Black up in North Dakota, up in that area? And I'll be trying to figure out where North Dakota, South Dakota is, so I can get to the Grand Canyon, and that's where I'm really supposed to be right now, but the numbers are too high. But what a powerful movement. And I'm going to make myself clear. This book is not just a book, everybody, and understand, because somebody made a comment the other day, and I don't know what y'all be thinking, so I like to say it live. It is not just a book. It is a movement of positive Black men that you're going to hear from years to come. And I'm praying that more interviews are coming. We got some set up, Byron, for December 9th, WUSA 9, Fox 5. Come on, Steve Harvey, Oprah, I'm listening. Y'all need this right now during this pandemic. Look, we need to call the election right now. What's going on? We've lost a lot of Black boys, Black girls. This book is some medicine. So that's why it's a movement. And I don't want anybody to get it twisted. Yeah, it's a book. But when you listen to these brothers' stories and their education and their sacrifice, it's a movement. Much like Teddy Riley and New Jack Swing. That wasn't just a genre of music, but that New Jack was a movement.
Yeah,
so you can see it movement. See how I put that together, Dr. Dyer?
Yeah. That was good. That was smooth.
Dr. Dyer, welcome to the show. Great morning, sir.
Great morning. Again, with that book launch on Saturday, it was so inspirational. And here's the thing: when you say when men lean in, we all win. I have my shows, as you know, that with Bridges Live and Voices to Be Heard, where we talk about abuse, and Black Coffee Conversation, where we get Black men to talk about our everyday lives. And last night on Voices to Be Heard, I had this amazing man on who lives in Atlanta, who works with abuse. He 22 years on the police force working with sexual crimes. And here's the thing, that when we open up as Black men and not just confess, but relay the trials and tribulations we all go through, so you can say that I too can do this. That's what men need to do. We need to stop being closed off as emotional men and open up to be confident men. Because until we open up, we will always be closed off, and then we will always be stuck in mental slavery. And until Black men, open up their emotional selves and say, I can express myself. Like on my show, I talk about the abuse I've been through, the sexual abuse I've been through, the PTSD I've gone through. And it's not about just saying it. It's about saying to young Black men and to all men, you have trauma, open up, because that's only then we can reach you and hold out our hand like Adam does. And when we hold out our hands, we can pull you up, because we cannot pull you out of the muck until you reach up. And we will reach down and catch you, and that's when men lean in. We can't carry men who don't want to be held, but we can carry men who want to be observed and listened to. And so with that book, Martin, I say thank you, Dr. White, and and Byron, because it's what we do, not just as men, but as Black men, because we have been ostracized and patronized. We have been narrated into the prison cells. We have been subjecticated into the life that doesn't represent us. So we have to represent us. And that's what men and we all win.
Well, you know what? Once I'm going to throw it back over to Byron, because that was very well said. And I know once you hear Byron speak today, you're going to have him on your show. It brings me to tears of joy. He getting ready to bring it, Doc. This a bad brother here. And when I say bad brother, I mean bad isn't good. But I just want to read you an excerpt out of my chapter, because I'm going to come back to you. I couldn't say it the other night because I had so much emotions, but I quote Frederick Douglass in my book. And this is what you're saying. It's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. Listen, when I sat up on stage the other night, did you see the faces, Dr. Dyer, when I told him my stepfather who raised me was Caucasian? Did you see the faces? They dropped. Okay. In a pandemic, I had to be clear, but here's a guy that didn't see color. But I'm broken that my Black father lived across town and never came to see me. And my mother, with 3 children by Black men, couldn't figure it out, going through abuse and things of that nature. So what she did, she married a provider. And that provider, basically, and I wasn't saying, oh, this white guy taught me how to be a father, but what he did teach me is how to be a father to my children.
There it is.
So I married a Black woman, okay, a HBCU Spelman chick. They off the chain. They don't do that. I'm on my second marriage, but guess what? For a while, I've been married 18 years. The first marriage, I was married 10. I've been married a third of my life. The fact of the matter is, for a while, I got 5 children. They didn't know if they had different mothers because I kept the kids together. All right? But it was about me being present for my children. And my first son, to God be the glory, then graduated college. And now he's a director in DC. And that's what I'm talking about, being present. And where I'm coming from in my chapter, and I'm going to throw it over to Byron, is that you're more likely to succeed statistically with 2 parents in the household. That's where I'm coming from. Because when you talk about the statistics, which we're changing the narrative. And I want people to understand, Dr. Dyer, what you're saying is, it's okay to say you're broken. I'm okay. I'm broken. I needed some help. When I got some counseling, got that done, then you can tell your story, because once you tell your story and be transparent, then the healing starts within, and then you can help somebody else. Byron T. Dees, I want to go over to you. Tell us a little bit about your chapter, but before you go into your chapter, tell us when you got that phone call, what made you lean in and be a part of the When Men Lean In project?
Well, it's just very timely. When we think about where we are right now from the perspective of Black men and where the perceptions from a national perspective. I think, George Floyd was really the reset in this country. It was really an Edmund Pettus Bridge moment, our current day moment, where the world really is able to take a look at what we all know is happening and happens. In many cases, it happened to many of us in our engagement and communication, and in many cases, the fear of being pulled over by a police officer. And so this was an opportunity to not only recognize that we're in that window and to tell our stories, but to the representation piece, it's important for people to understand our history, our experiences, and at the same time, our trajectory and what we believe is possible for African-American men in this day and age. And so that was the reason why when you called, I didn't hesitate. To be completely honest with you, I found it to be a very timely, cathartic opportunity for me to share, to communicate things that were on my mind that I hadn't put on paper. And so I thank you for being a visionary in that respect for so many of us who possibly were thinking about it, but didn't put the one step before the other. And so you truly gave us an opportunity to take and to really help our own selves from more of an emotional perspective. So I appreciate that big time.
Well, we're gonna stick with you for a little longer, and I appreciate you. I said on stage the other day, sometimes people think I'm a full-time entrepreneur, which I am, but also I do some consulting. And July 17th was a very difficult day for me. I was walking to the door of my consulting job, and I'm like, my numbers are high. I know I'm one of the best ones in this department. It's COVID-19. You're throwing another Black man in the streets to figure it out. Devastated. And I had actually did a couple of talk shows on When Men Lean In, We All Win. And shout out to Sylvia Kuntz. The Lord places some angels around you. And I got a lot of good feedback on the 2 workshops I did with Dion Banks and Dennis Nickens. And I did a couple of workshops when Men Lean In, We All Win. Because I always knew, when I go to these all-female conferences and retreats, we seem to be the problem. Well, my daddy wasn't there. My husband wasn't here. And I went into a conference one day, and y'all correct me. I guess I was the not radical, but eradical disciple that said, okay, so the wife went to a retreat today, and she got all these tools to be a better wife, a better woman. But what was the husband at? He was at home watching a football game with the remote in his hand. Well, that's no good, because when that wife comes home and says, hey, honey, I was at a female women's retreat today, a workshop. This is what I learned. He can't relate to that. He's like, so I never do anything outside of this project. And I always tried to do collaborations with men and women, okay? But I understand this too, that our Black women have been the most disrespected species on the planet, all right? And so as we're talking about the millennials knowing our history, y'all know we're around the same age. Our history, quote unquote, from white America was slavery. Yeah, that's what I was taught. Started with slavery, Black History Week, Carter G. Woodson, all that stuff. Well, guess what? When I got the real story from Dr. Dyer and my Sharp brothers, oh wow, we were rich kings and queens way before slavery. Then the Anglo-Saxon white man and the Willie Lynch theory came in and changed the paradigm. And then now I can get into why a lot of these Black men are broken. Yep. We got to break that cycle, because I'm going to go over to you, Byron, and we'll go over to Dr. Dyer, because he can't wait. So I understand, but now we got to turn the page. So when that dark-skinned Black brother came home from picking cotton all day, his wife was raped by a slave master, pregnant by another man, then sent off somewhere, and he probably wouldn't see his wife and children ever again. That's the separation of Black men and women that I see. And I'll tell y'all, when I'm walking down the street and I see a brother, and I'll be like, hey, how you doing? And he throw his head down, don't want to say hi. That bothers me. I about want to go grab him and say, I just said hello to you, brother. Yeah. Just say hello back. But we're stuck into what you said, Dr. Dyer. So I did write this book with just men. And I got to tell you, it felt good. It felt good. I mean, the last one I did, it felt good. Don't get me wrong. I love this one. I love it. It's men and women, to my point, men and women. But this one, it felt a little bit better. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's hard to get Black men to collaborate on anything together, okay? unless you like his homeboy. So me and Byron are like cool, but I'm probably not in Byron's top 5, top 10 of his boys of all time. You know what I'm saying? I would want to be now, don't get me wrong. and say with you, Dr. Dyer, so sometimes you gotta, like when the Lord is stretching you to do something, like I said, Lord, I want to do this anthology with 20 men. That was me inside. the Lord was like, you ain't gonna get 20, but I'm gonna give you 14, 15. And the 5 that didn't make it, 2 financial, 3 said, I don't know. They called me up and say, bro, I really messed up. I should have jumped on that when I'm seeing what's happening. But the Lord was like, you got to roll with what you have. You can't wait on the 20. I know 20 sounds like it's a better number, but 14 is smooth. And just to throw it over to my brother, the Lord's number is 7, a divine number that you can't break. So divide that by 2, you got 14. Amen. Go ahead, Byron.
Well, I tell you, when you think about this book and the chapter for me, and going back to Sanford, Florida, I think a lot about my grandfather. My grandfather was my hero and still is to this day. He's passed away now. Bishop Israel Black Sr. He started churches throughout the East Coast and Florida, all the way up to New York and back. And to this day, some of those churches are still doing the business of saving souls for Jesus Christ. And when you think about that, from the respect of what does it take to be a man to do things like that, to have a heart for the community, to recognize that there are people who could easily find themselves in a very bad fix, in a very bad direction, and to be able to say, here's a resource that could help to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And that has really been the foundation of my psyche, if you will, from the beginning. And so from that point, to have that type of upbringing, to then go off to Tuskegee and be taught and educated under the really the cloak of Booker T. Washington and his belief and strategy around really pulling your bootstraps up where you are, vocational industrial education. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur, to create, to understand the value that you currently have and how you can take the things that you know and understand and create commerce, to create markets based on your education and your understanding and the trades. And it's a very important conversation when you think about, a lot of times we have that conversation between Dr. Washington, Booker T. Washington, and W.B. Du Bois. But I think those 2 excellent brothers were so important for the trajectory of freed slave people. Because when you think about it, that particular time, you had millions of freed slaves who were trying to figure out, how do we coexist in this country? And how do we become a part of the solution and making America exactly what we wanted it to become? And so I still, to this day, and I probably for the rest of my life, will be committed to helping people build where they are, regardless of what people told you should do. You should go off and get all these degrees and do that. My question is, what do you enjoy right now? And how can we create a market based on your current knowledge and the things you know and understand? And allow that to create life within its own, and factor that into the aspect of generational wealth. And how can you build something that could very well be passed on to folks within your family, folks within your community? Build something that will outlive you. That in and of itself, and from a financial perspective, is something that I think is a conversation that's not happening as often as it should. But when we start thinking about assets and how we can take things that we already know and understand, maybe it was taught to us when we were a child, maybe we learned it at a certain point, but how to monetize the information that we already know and create these entities and assets that will outlive us. That in and of itself is the types of seeds that I try to spend my time on a daily basis sowing into other folks.
Well, everybody, I could not repeat that, but I received all that great knowledge. That was Byron TD's co-author with Men Lean In. When Men Lean In, We All Win. And the name of his chapter, everybody, is Faith, Family, and Forward Thinking. I want y'all to go pick that up. We're going to come back because I got a tough question for it's an HBCU question I want to ask you. But let's go to Dr. Dyer. Dr. Dyer, how are you digesting? Now, mind you, I just met Dr. Dyer about 3 weeks ago. And I hugged this brother the other night because we have these conversations offline about like the black quarterback, science. I had to break shout out to Jackie Mims. I'll be there soon, sister. Shout out to Wesley Webb. If you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, share it out. We love y'all. We just getting started. I had to break the news to Jackie today based on what you told me. Byron, I figured I could go on tour with this book and all the books. And Dr. Dyer, with his science, he said, Larry, we're going to be in this pandemic another year and change. And I heard it on CNN last night. And I was celebrating this, but I was distraught because he was like, from a medicine standpoint. And I'm a marketing guy, brand ambassador. I'm more of a power networker. So I have to go to the folks that's in the wheelhouse of this. Now, here's a brother that studies science, medicine. And when he broke it down, and then they basically repeated what he said. I listen to Dr. Dyer. I don't listen to CNN. I don't know those people. So Dr. Dyer basically broke it down. He said, Doc, this is how it's going to work. By spring, there'll be a vaccination possible. But then it only will be for the folks that really need it. And by the time the entire country gets it, you're looking at the end of 2021 going into 2022. Well, he told me that Saturday night. CNN just put that out last night. And I'm like, wow, it goes back to telling you. So I said, Jackie, we're not going to be able to go on tour in 2021. She goes, how so? I said, we were hopeful thinking with no rhyme or reason or education like that to think, okay, we'll be out of this pandemic in the spring, going into the summer. Well, guess what? We're headed backwards. Now we're almost headed for a lockdown again, guys. And I wanted to just say, because now I said, Jackie, as our senior vice chair of the mastermind group, we have to pivot and realize that most of our workshops will be in a virtual realm for all of 2021. We're going to be just like this. And now we got to figure out how to monetize some of these stuff that we've been giving out free. But I just wanted to now go over to you, Dr. Dyer. We've been talking about quite a bit. We're mailing in. We talked a little bit about slavery. How did we get there? We know we were rich kings and queens before that. What's the answer for today? What's the answer for today? And I'm going to just leave it there because I had a solution and your beautiful wife says, hey, that's what we're on. But what's the answer for today? What's the short-term answer for Black men and women and families? Because I could tell you, I'm looking at Byron and he's sharp. My mother said, show me the people you hang around with. I tell you a little bit about yourself. But I don't see any difference in George Floyd than Emmett Till in 1955. Amen?
Neither do I.
I just need a short term, how we can work together now, because I'm tired of let's do it. So I did something. I wrote this book during the pandemic, and I'm working on getting a curriculum to the school board in Anne Arundel County to see this in libraries in the school system for little Black girls and Black boys to do something. But give us what you're thinking on everything you've heard from Byron, myself. But I want to hear some short-term and long-term goals of what we can do as Black men to get this generational wealth, because we've been talking about it. But what you're seeing in my face, Dr. Dyer, I'm getting tired.
Well, a couple things we're going to do, and to go back to the pandemic real quick, we're going into a shutdown in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, and Maryland's going to a shutdown. Now, Governor Hoeven, he's a clown, but he's going to do it in 2 weeks. So the next thing is that we have to open up our own publication of schools, and whether it be education centers, because some of these things are closing down. We need to open up, and we need to open up where these Black children can come in and be taught by Black men and women. That's what we're going to do. That's how we build generational wealth, because they're not going to get the education. Because first of all, Black children learn differently. So they're not going to, even if we get them on a virtual class, they're not going to attain it or retain it. Because they're just not. That's because we're tactile learners. Black children and Black boys are tactile learners, meaning they have to touch and see and get that kinetic feel, because we are social animals. We have always been social animals. Maybe it's the melanin in our system. We connect with the sun children. So we connect with that vibration through the sun children. That's why we vibrate with loved ones so closely. That's why more Black people hug at family reunions than any other culture around the globe. We want to touch you. So we have to have these buildings open up, These stores open up. Yes, we'll do our social distances. Yes, we'll do our cleaning of the hands. Yes, we'll take all the precautions we need, but we need to have our children in front of us.
Dr. Dyer, I'm going to tell you, you see Byron, how deep he is. By the way, he's got a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, everybody, so that science comes in. But I want you to stay right there, Dr. Dyer, because I'm going to ask Byron T. Deese a deep question about HBCUs. So here we go. My wife is a Marylander. She went to all-white school called Severna Park. So if you're in this Maryland, you know about Severna Park. And even today, the folks up there decided to build a multi-million-dollar new high school. Severna Park High School looked better than most colleges around the country. Just go down Ritchie Highway and take a look at it. Meade Senior High School, yet about 20 miles away, is falling apart. Glen Burnie is falling apart. But these folks, and to make myself clear, Severna Park has probably more drugs going through the school than most schools in Anne Arundel County. A lot of people don't know it. But those rich white folks that live in Severna Park, Annapolis, they just show up to the school and said, not my kid with the drugs. But it's a different story at Glen Burnie and Meade. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because my wife and her sister, they were the only Black in their classroom all the way through elementary and pretty much all the way through middle school and high school. Only Black. So the father decided, he marched with King. Shout out to my father-in-law. He was amazing, my mentor. He said, wow, you know, they didn't have a Black experience growing up outside of family. So he sent them to a historically Black college, Spelman College. Almost like, get your Blackness in. I know. And so I get it. And then my son matriculated through Meade Senior High School, honor student. And I said, son, let me send you on this HBCU tour. And I sent him to Morgan. I sent him to Howard, Hampton. He goes, Dad, I'm not really feeling the HBCUs. I'm like, man, what did I go wrong? I raised him abroad in Italy, and he had all these cultures, all these things I didn't have. What did I go wrong? So he goes, Dad, I would like to go to Radford University, a predominantly white school. Man, that's what you want. So we prayed, and he says, I went with it because I didn't want to be that parent to say, you're not going to this school and then you're hating dad and mom for 4 years. So I sent him to Radford University, but I did sign off on it because they had a 70% graduation rate. He graduated on time, but I really wanted him to have that Black experience. Now, he had the Black experience in middle school and high school, but I wanted to keep it going. So I could tell you there were certain things at the time when I was with the 100 Black Men that I was coming home, when he was coming home for college break, I was like, hey, what? He's like, his tone was different. Like, hey, Dad, hey, what is that? We don't talk like that around here. But probably what was more disturbing was when he said, Dad, I'm going to join a white fraternity. Now I said, that you will not do. And I said, because tell me how the white fraternity is going to come back in your Black community and help you, son. End the conversation there. He said, I get it, Dad. I said, but just keep it. But they were looking for diversity. I know it was happening.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, Byron, how was your experience at an HBCU, and how did that shape you as a Black man? Because people tell me all the time, nothing like the Black experience at an HBCU. And look at what the Divine Nine has done since Kamala Harris has been selected. I'm just saying, so could you just speak a little bit on to that, being a Tuskegee grad there, Byron T. Deese?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, as much as I enjoyed being on campus at Tuskegee, so much history to be able to walk from one class to the next. But when you're walking past the eternal gravestones of Dr. Washington, George Washington Carver, Dr. Moten, the Tuskegee Airmen. Many of those people's graves are right there on campus. And so that you have that history factor. And for me, that was important. I've always, even as a child, was always attracted to learning more about history, but particularly Black history. For some reason, I can't even explain it today, but it was important to understand those who helped us to go from being nameless products on a slave ship to what we're now having right now, what that really means, that evolution. there's something meaningful to actually take a step back and realize that people created these opportunities, but it was an evolution. And what we're doing right now is an extension of that evolution. And I always think about what am I leaving, for my daughter and grandkids and things like that. And so with that being said, for me, Tuskegee was a great family. And it really kicked into gear the day after I left. My first day as an alumni. I didn't realize it, but that was when the real impact of the Tuskegee experience started the next day. I moved here, and will connect to one of the questions you asked me earlier. I'd gotten my first job out of college was with SunTrust and private banking in Baltimore. And so I got in my car in Tuskegee, packed my bags, drove to Baltimore, all the way up to Baltimore. And that night I met Maria. I met my wife. And it just, it's just amazing how that came together. But from that point on, the relationships of people who I didn't even go to school with, how tight we are. It's this family that is just, will go on past my lifetime. My grandkids will have relationships with those people, and those other families who are just like cousins, if you will. So it's when you think about why people send their kids to Harvard and Yale, particularly for the alumni and for their access to opportunities. Well, I can tell you the same thing applies when you go to schools like Tuskegee, because the day you walk away from there, the opportunities open up. And so, it's your son's very attractive to multiple people. And they see someone like him, they're like, we got to figure out a way to pull him into our resource and to be able, in many cases, because that's what the other thing that happened to us. You think about HBCUs prepares you, even though, and we call it the Black utopia while we were there, but when we actually step out in the world, that training prepared us. I'm the only African-American within my firm, and that's been the case for several years, really, since I've been in a professional. And so, but it prepares you to be able to overcome some things that actually, and I'm just being honest with you, that some people actually wouldn't be able to prepare you for, especially when you're the only person. So the representation aspect becomes very pronounced at that point, because you're not only just representing yourself, things that you say, the way you move, the way you communicate, you're representing the whole race of people, unfortunately. And I don't think my peers who aren't African Americans feel that same type of, I don't want to call it a burden, but that's part of what happens when you walk into a room. You're not just representing you and your mom and dad, but you represent the whole of African Americans. And so I think that places like Tuskegee prepares you for that type of responsibility.
Listen, I want to thank you so much for answering that so very nicely. We're going to figure out a way to do a private book signing for you outdoors. We're going to figure out something, Byron, because your story needs to be told. And, we don't have to be a little bit more patient, as Dr. Dyer has given us the news. We will more than likely be in a shutdown in 2 more weeks. We see it coming, and then being in the pandemic for another year. And, I can say I'm glad I started doing some virtual things a year ago. I didn't see this pandemic coming. Nobody did. And so now we've got to sit back and see how we can keep our doors open. Like, I'm just driving down the highway in those big old buildings in Dulles and the Silicon Valley. They're like vacant, So what happens to all this infrastructure, all this property? And I love what you said, Doc. And I am that tactile guy. I was introduced to some new software at my consulting gig yesterday. They're like, hey, we need you to read the procedure. I said, I don't want to read the procedure. Just show me how to do it one time and I'll get it. I figured it out real fast, but you're right to your point on that, Dr. Dyer. We're very tactile, hands-on. So we got a long way to go. Byron, I'm gonna come back and get your contact information, how people can purchase your book and any upcoming events you may have. Purple Honey, I think they're still out there. So let's figure out what's going on. Dr. Dyer, we have about 5 more minutes. So we want to just give us empowerment, give us leadership, give us inspiration, and give us entrepreneurship and education. Sum it all up for us, Dr. Dyer. And also, not only do I want you to sum up everything in those 5 pillars in empowerment, inspiration, entrepreneurship, leadership, and education, sum it all up, and then tell us how people can contact you and a little bit about your show and upcoming events you may have.
Well, Byron has hit it spot on when he talks about the Frederick Douglass and George Washington Carver and all those men, what they did, and what I learned from my mother and my father, who was a Black Panther. It is activate. It's not activism. It is activate. And if you cannot activate, then you are stuck and you are being sold. That's the difference. You will be sold if you cannot activate. And what do you need to activate? You need to activate your mind. You need to activate your heart. You need to activate your spiritual self. You need to activate your soulful self. You need to activate those things. Then you're able to engage. Then once you engage it, now it's time to push it forward. So now that you activate it, which is education, learning something, now it's to put it into the practice. And I'm not just talking and talk about it. I'm talking about go do it, and if you cannot do, ask for help to do. And if you don't know how to ask for help to do, then you didn't activate. So it reverses back. If you say, well, I don't know how to do this. Well, you will never know how until you activate. So once you get your activate, educate, and once you start your movement, which is entrepreneurship, once you start all that, then you join hands with us, and we will carry you through that bridge to go over. Because it's only till then we go over the bridge, that bridge, what you call self-doubt, self-confidence, self-absorbed, self-ego, you will be stuck back there where you can then be sold into something that was never for you.
Look, we do this on the show. That's a drop the mic moment. That's it. Obama drop. Yeah, go ahead, Byron. Because you've been dropping them. You've been dropping them as well, brother. Let's stay with you for just a few more moments, Dr. Paul W. Dyer, an amazing man. He's got a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. He's got a master's degree. He's got 2 or 3 PhDs. And when I first met him virtually, he said, "Don't call me Dr. Dyer, please. Just call me Paul." I said, "I can't do that. Can't do that." And I could only see his face, but we were on the phone talking for like 2 hours one morning. It was one of the best conversations I had. And then I learned that he talked to his wife and said it was one of the best conversations he ever had. That's the iron. But I said, "Dr. Dyer, the reason why I have to call you Dr. Dyer, because I have to train myself when I'm around youth, when I'm around people that didn't finish higher education, that they need to understand how long it took you to get those degrees. So when I'm saying Dr. Dyer, he doesn't want to hear, 'Hey, doc,' but that youth that's struggling, especially in a virtual pandemic, I too can be Dr. Paul W. Dyer. And it took a long time to get that education. So you deserve that respect, my brother. Like I tell people all the time, I'm an honorary doctorate. I can only say that in certain arenas, but I really appreciate, I did have to write a dissertation and a thesis, if you will. And, so my doctorate was a little bit different, from a Bible college. So I had to put some work in because sometimes they give them away. Let's keep it real. They give those honorary doctorates away. But you went the traditional route, did all that lab work. I got one of my brothers like, "Doc, you got an honorary doctorate degree in 6 months. It took me 5 years to get that lab work done." So I do not take that lightly at all. But I want to go back over to Byron. Byron, what kind of upcoming events, because I know you were with Black Professional Men. Are you still with those guys? And what kind of events, if anything, virtually do you guys have coming up?
Well, one thing I didn't mention is, I was, if you give a little background, back in 2008, I worked on the Obama campaign. And I was living in Philadelphia at the time. This is before I was married and before children, and ultimately went full time for the campaign. And I started an organization, or more of a community organizing group called Dream Makers for Obama. And that objective was to organize professionals for the purpose of helping them to understand the legislative process, but why it's important to more so provide the voter turnout. And that led into the Dream Makers Network and the Dream Makers Foundation, which is nonprofit and a for-profit entity, which we've been hosting now since 2009. And every other Saturday morning, we host our personal development group called the Mastermind Call with the Dreammakers Network, where we do a lot of conversation that focuses on personal development, reading books, goal setting, and more importantly, also community outreach. And we have a group where we call it Engage, where we go out and host professional networking events with our music group, Purple Honey, which is Purple Honey is a entertainment group here in Baltimore. And you can see artists throughout the city, even in this time, and particularly during the pandemic, where folks are on the side of the road providing great jazz music, neo soul, comedy, and attracting an audience. And so we host events at the UB Blake Center in Baltimore, which is, if we all know UB Blake from the Ragtime, one of the great jazz artists. And so there's always something going on. There's activities going on nonstop. I will say, from a voter perspective, we're really going to go all hands on to focus and support the folks down in Georgia, the Senate candidates. And so we want to make sure that folks recognize that it's great that we were able to elect Biden and Kamala Harris, but they will have a very difficult time passing any meaningful legislation if the Georgia Senate race does not go blue. And I don't, folks have different political ideologies and focuses, but it's so important to make sure that when you have a president, that you also have the Senate in support of the two working together to be able to really pass meaningful legislation and get things done. So that will be the focus over the next, realistically, for the rest of this year, to help those two get into office.
And listen, that's a drop the mic moment, everybody. And shout out to Dr. William D. Scott. He flew in from Atlanta. He talked about, how we need to get those 2 seats down in Georgia. Yeah, and so that's just another confirmation. And that's why I do my Congressional Black Caucus reception every year. It was virtual this year, didn't feel the same, but we had to really talk to the local business owners, who I feel entrepreneurs, small business owners are the heartbeat of the community. And we had the Honorable Jocelyn Pinna-Melnick just talk about legislation, because I don't think a lot of small business owners understand. You really need to know who your local business, legislation is, because there's a buddy of mine that sells cars on Ritchie Highway. They're trying to drive him out because his taxes was going up and up and up, but his counterparts, their taxes were not going up. So how's the legislation working in your county, in your city, as a small business owner? And that's so amazing what you just said about that legislation, because that affects small business owners. I mean, keep your doors open. You just think about, I know my church, maybe several people's churches, they had to take out a PPP loan. Okay, without that PPP loan for our church, the doors would be closed, because the tithing is down right now. Some folks are just not really savvy to hit that text, and have it come out of their bank account. So drop the mic moment for Byron. And Byron, is there any contact information you would like to leave if people want to further get involved with Engage? I know I see you up there, and I would like to partner with you. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you. I'm going to jump in my car. I'm going to text you. Dr. Dyer is going to reach out to you. I'm going to tell you that right now. So we'll get some contact information, Byron.
Yeah, I think, and my personal email address is Byron Deese, BYRONDEESE @hotmail.com. Definitely contact me there, because there's just a host of things going on. But I will say, to your point, more so from a financial management perspective, and you hit a very important point, that you could literally have 2 business owners, growing business, things are going well. One's tax rate is lower than the other. And the reason is, how are you being compensated? Did they talk you into becoming a W-2 employee, or are you receiving K-1 compensation and able to use the tax code to keep your taxes low? So it's important to really make sure that when you talk about taxes, you don't just have a tax preparer, but you have a tax advisor who's helping you to identify how to keep your taxes low and keep the wealth that you are creating, and make sure that your wealth objective is generational, because the W-2 worker aspect is not the best category when you're trying to build a business.
And that's some of those things real quick that black business people who want to start a business, they never knew and they don't know. And that's why they go broke within the 5 years.
That's right.
Listen, I had to give Byron, the Obama mic drop, and we don't have enough time today, but we educate folks in our mastermind group. When you're starting a business, are you a C Corp, S Corp, LLC, LLP? Because there's different taxes for those things. So that's why y'all pay dues, because we give y'all some great information. Dr. Dyer, tell us a little bit about your show. You got a nice show out there, and how people can contact you before we close.
Well, you can always contact me. I'm on all the social medias, but you can email me at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com. But one of the couple of shows I have is Mental Health Mondays, which is every Monday, and we talk about mental health for the community. And then I have Voices to Be Heard every other Wednesday, and that's talk about abuse in the community. So people can call in. It's a call-in talk show, so you can have some anonymity, but it's so people can hear you, so you can start that activation that I talk about. And then I'm starting a new show with a judge, with an attorney called with Marilyn Pierre, and we're going to go You Be the Judge. So we're going to put out the legislation. We're going to talk about the legal stuff that's in the courts that Black people never get to hear about, and that's why it slips through, and that's why we get slapped in the head when we end up going to court about legislations, about different rules. So and my show's called Bridges Live, and that's really so people can get information, understanding, and action. And you can always catch it on any of those podcasts as Bridges Live. So absolutely.
Listen, when I'm looking down, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm sharing the broadcast out, and I wanted to read. Dr. Talisha Johnson out of Tampa, Florida, she just said, I shared it in some groups. She said, thank you for having two brilliant Black men on the show today. Thank you, Dr. Talisha Johnson, for tuning in and allowing the show to be in Tampa. Reese Odom, a multifaceted actress out of Atlanta. She said, I'm watching, Doc. They amazing. Y'all don't have to take my word for it. Just go look at the comments. I'm just shouting y'all out. I'm serious. This is so amazing. 26 comments. And just Lisa Harwell out of Waldorf. Fantastic conversation. Okay. Outstanding Black excellence. My heart is filled. Hearts. Jackie Mims. I'm on my way, sis. I can't make this stuff up. Listen, I want to say this. Next week, I've got some folks on the show. Then I take a break. Byron T. Deese, Dr. Dyer, Jackie Mims, all of you all. My 1 year anniversary is December 5th. I'm asking you all to call in. It'll be via StreamYard. Just call in and say hello. It's my 1 year anniversary, and I just want y'all, it's my birthday. Can't go to Martha's Vineyard. So I got to do something virtual. But I want to highlight everybody that's been on the show in the past year. We've had physical fitness folks on here, chefs, funeral directors, financial literacy people, wellness for leaders, entrepreneurs, bankers, brokers, real estate. They say, how do you pick your guests? I said, I go in the prayer closet. Anybody that know me very well, I do about 3 things very well. I stay in the prayer closet. I drink a lot of water, and I like drinking my wine too. I lived in Naples, Italy for 3 years, and I became a wine connoisseur. I belong to a wine club. I don't really mess with it, but I love my wine. If the Queen of Mary can drink her vodka at 90 years old once a day, I can have me a glass of wine every day. So I'm messing with y'all. And listen, I want to shout out to Byron T. Deese. I was in his amazing venue some years back. Purple Honey performed when Prince passed away. I got the video. The DJ, Byron is I'm gonna just say this for Byron because I've been wanting to say this on the show and I couldn't say it. In the words of Byron T. Deese and the late Congressman John Lewis, come on, y'all, let's go out here and network and get in some good trouble, all right? I was talking to Byron, and I said, Byron, man, how do you do it? You married? He said, Larry, I stay in trouble. I say, because I'm just saying, we out here empowering people, and we have to. Our wives have to share us with the public. And I see Byron, he walking and praying in the morning, and he's out here. He can just, y'all heard his story. He can just pack it up and just be good with his family and his daughter. Shout out to Maddie playing golf, the next Tiger Woods. The Masters is going on right now, Maddie. And I know your dad will let you see a couple of swings from Tiger. Hopefully he can get to the 6th major, catch Jack, But the bottom line is that he constantly is out here empowering the community. I've learned a lot from Byron. So we're going to have to figure out a way, Dr. Dyer, and partner with Engage. Whatever they need, speakers, they need some money, whatever. We got to figure out a way to continue to work together. So I just want to thank y'all. I have the best job in the world. I get to host this show with amazing folks. So I'll be taking my notes. Byron said this, and that, Dr. Dyer. So like I basically go take what y'all said and then I go educate other people. I really do. And it's that information that you get, and I thank you guys. But then normally when I end the show, I go get my granddaughter. But I'm not going to do that today because I got to be an iron to my sister Jackie Mims. But later on tonight or in the morning, I get my granddaughter. So on Thursdays, it's my big day. Got to do my talk show. Then I go get my granddaughter, who's, my wife. I love my wife. I love my firstborn. I love all my children. But it's something about that granddaughter, y'all. When you got a grandchild, that's a different kind of love. So she be like just think about it in 25 years. You see little Maddie have a daughter or a son. You're going to be like, Maddie, get out the way. Not now, but boy, when you see that your child have a child, it's a whole different feeling. I'm just going to tell y'all that. So I'm known for a lot of things. Dr. White on the honorary side, Mr. Concierge, but the most important name that I got right now is Grandpierre. Grandpierre. That's it. So,
thanks, peace.
All right. Byron T. Deese, everybody, Dr. Paul W. Dyer, I want to thank you, amazing brothers, for blessing the country, blessing the world. We've been talking about when men lean in, we all win. I'm going to shout these brothers' names out one more time. Yeah, they need to say their names. They need to say Breonna Taylor and George Floyd in the courtroom. Say their name. I'm going to say these brothers' names. Dr. William D. Scott, he leaned in. R. Wesley Webb, he leaned in. Gerald A. Moore Sr., he leaned in. Andre James, he leaned in. McKinley Toombs, he leaned in. Deion Banks, he was trying to get on the show. He leaned in. Stephen LeBroy, he leaned in. You heard him today. Byron T. Deese is in the building, everybody. He leaned in. Chef Kendall Selby, he leaned in. Charlemagne McCarter, he leaned in. Brian Keith Bailey, he leaned in. Vince O. Leggett, he leaned in. And Wayne Taylor, he leaned in. I am Dr. Larry White, Sr., the visionary author, and I leaned in as well. Continue to watch the show. We're growing. Our 1-year anniversary is coming up. Thank you, everybody. Brothers, hold tight. I'm going to put us in the studio. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week and be safe. Continue to be safe and wash your hands.